Welcome to the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles, along with my co-host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Our special guest today is Tamara Loring, serving as chief of brand ideology for the Entrepreneur Source. Tamara has worked with entrepreneurs and business owners for over 20 years. T has worked in a variety of roles, including trainer, a franchise business coach, and manager. Tamara is uniquely qualified to speak on your career revolution, reimagining and reclaiming the life of your dreams, because she's been an integral part of helping TES launch and ramp up their business and to equip them with the tools and resources needed to coach those who have a strong desire to be self-sufficient. She's been referred to as the coach's coach for the relationships she's been able to establish with TES career coaches and knowledge of reclaiming one's career ownership spirit. Wow. Welcome to the show, T.
I appreciate you guys having me here. I'm so excited.
Love it. Love it. Tamara, I'm curious. Tell me more about TES and also what does a chief of brand ideology do exactly?
I asked myself the same question when our founder, Terry, said, I want you to be in charge of our ideology here. So I guess where it started was Terry Powell is our founder. And in his early years, he kept on but I guess banging his head against the wall saying, gosh, there has to be a better way. Now, he was a business broker and he always questioned the value that they were providing. He felt like he was getting in between a transaction that was going to take place anyway. And he became very intrigued by the people that they were qualifying out because he recognized and he realized that they kept on coming back asking more questions. And so what he realized is that people were uncertain. They just didn't know which direction to go. And he asked his partner at that point in time, he said, do you mind if I speak to the people that we qualified out? And his partner laughed, almost like I can imagine this belly laugh saying like, oh my gosh, sure, knock yourself out. But why would you waste your time with those tire kickers and those dreamers? And when he said that, I can even just reimagine the story where Terry lit up because he could identify with being a dreamer himself. And he said, wouldn't it be cool if there was a way to educate people in this safe space where they could dare to dream again, like when they were a kid and failure was not a possibility? How cool would it be to be able to create a service like that? And then he created not only a service like that, he created a business when everybody else said, there is no way anybody would even pay or compensate you for it. And Rebecca and Tracy, we're just talking, Terry's very known in the franchising space and we have been around for almost 40 years. So not only are we compensated for that, we bring people to entrepreneurship and business ownership and allow them to dream in a way that even they couldn't have imagined. So it's just totally fun. So as an ideologist, I get to dream day in and day out. How cool is that?
I want your job.
I know.
Wow.
When I retire, I'll let you know.
I never thought about it as a service for those dreamers. And honestly, entrepreneurs, wannabe entrepreneurs, are dreamers. They see a better future. They may not know how to get there, right? But they know things can be different, that they don't have to be tied to a job or, have those kinds of things that are uncomfortable for them in a job. But I this idea that you are not just helping them get to their dream, but you literally provide a service that says, we love dreamers. We want to work with dreamers, right?
For sure.
And walk them through a process. So beautiful job, wonderful organization. I've known Terry for the whole 30 years I've been in the franchise space. So what is in your mind the thing that sets you apart? You've made a 20-year commitment to this role that you're playing. What is it that you believe Terry Powell saw in you that maybe you didn't even see in yourself?
Oh, goodness. I think because he believes everybody has a dream worthwhile pursuing, and he saw maybe curiosity and somebody with an open mind. So I wasn't sure. I think I mentioned to you ladies that when I heard that he was in the franchising space, I already made up my mind that probably not for me. I came from the hospitality industry. I thought I knew what franchising was. It was about fast food and French fries, and I was kind of done with that. But he intrigued me enough to have me join the organization, say, well, maybe there is something more. And then when I started realizing that there are different industries and, franchising was way more than just, your quick service restaurants, I became even more intrigued. And just the more time I spent in this space, the light bulbs just kept on going off. I realized that, wait a minute, I didn't identify with being an entrepreneur. I was actually scared to death about becoming a business owner because I kept on thinking, I don't have a product or a service that I want to take to the marketplace. So what am I going to do? But the job was not serving me well because I realized I was working on somebody else's dream. So that was not intriguing to me either. But then, the more I learned that franchising is actually a way of being in business for yourself, but not by yourself, where you get to leverage somebody else's system. And if you've got a strong work ethic, you can do it. So I guess Terry saw that, I was a diamond in the rough.
Yes.
And he saw that I was curious and open-minded enough that I would be willing to change my mind. So franchising was way more than just fast food and French fries. And I suddenly had the courage that I too can be a business owner. I too can create wealth and equity for me and my family. And there was so much more to I think where the ideology comes in was when my worldview started changing and realizing that there's not a scarcity of opportunities out there, but there's an abundance. Thinking about, yes, I too can be a business owner, even though I don't identify with being a visionary or an entrepreneur like maybe Terry Powell, realizing that I could participate in over, 80 or 90 different industry sectors, realizing that there's an abundance of possibilities out there, such a different worldview compared to somebody who's maybe working on their resume, hoping that they've got the wording just right, and almost like pleading that somebody recognizes them and gives them an opportunity. So it's just so much more fun to be in the quadrant that we are compared to somebody who's, questioning their own value and their own identity. So maybe that's what Terry saw in me. I don't know.
So too.
My goodness. Terry Powell's ears must be ringing this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously. So. And I love the fact that he recognized this passionate dreamer in you and that you were a passionate dreamer. And you take that passionate dreaming and you ignite others. You just have a way of transferring that, it seems, so that others can see their future and see themselves as larger. So I'm a little bit curious, how does one recognize, like, I could be happy in my day job, but how would I recognize that I am building someone else's dream and not my own?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in our book, we refer to it like having a grain of sand in your shoe. Now, if you think about how a pearl is created, it starts off as that grain in an oyster, and there's some irritant, and the constant irritant eventually creates this beautiful pearl. And so even if somebody's happy in their job, look, I'm happy in my job, right? I mean, there is such a thing as an amazing job. But you will find that you have this nagging thought saying, there has to be a better way. Mm-hmm. Wait a minute, if I'm going to dedicate my life, right, maybe work nights, work extra hours, give up holidays at the cost, those are trade-offs. There has to be a way that I can get some kind of ROI out of that. And so, when you have that irritant, it's about recognizing that maybe there's an opportunity for growth. Maybe it's time to start exploring something else. And that's what I love about what we're able to offer. When people meet us, first of all, they say, I didn't even know a service like yours existed. And, one of the things that we do is we just start saying, let's reimagine and reclaim the life of your dreams. Let's figure out what that North Star is going to be for you. And then let's look at the vehicles out there that can get you there. Maybe the job is exactly right. Wouldn't it be amazing that if you had this nagging thought that there has to be a better way, and after you compare and contrast all your options, the job, the investment opportunities, the different business opportunities, and you say, do you know what? I'm exactly where I need to be. Then we've done right by you. We've been the better part of your day. And now you can go out there and do that with a passion that maybe you had lost for a little while. So hopefully that answers it, Tracy.
It does. It really does. And Tracy, you're so right. That passion that we see in Tamara, it's contagious. I can imagine working one-on-one with you and others. So this passion is so obvious today. And what you do ignites the dreams of others. And it not only recognizes in others that they have dreams and they have potential, but it guides them to a way to bring those dreams into reality, is a lot of what you're doing. So, has this always been you? I mean, I'm just curious, when you were 12 or 18 or 21, did you think this was going to be your path, or were you going another direction and you were hooked by Terry and he drew you into the world of franchising? What was life like pre-TES and Terry Powell?
Well, look, life was always an adventure. And, and when you're on an adventure, you just kind of don't know what you're going to meet. And what I love is if you're open-minded enough, that things can change these amazing opportunities present themselves that you didn't even know. So no, I thought that in high school that maybe I was going to pursue law. Oh, thank goodness I didn't, because I think I would be miserable today. When I came to the United States, I was in the hospitality industry and working hard, and once again, not realizing that I saw amazing places, but I knew that my heart wasn't going to be in hospitality for the rest of my life. It just couldn't be, even though, I used a lot of my parents' money to have them send me to school for that. But then when I saw met Terry, once again, I just thought that this is a new adventure. And I, in my heart, felt like it was going to be short term. This is what it was going to be, a stepping stone towards whatever that next thing was going to be that I was going to do. So I cannot believe that suddenly 20 years have passed and I am such a fan of entrepreneurship, business ownership, franchising, and just loving what we do. And I wish I could get the message out, because I feel like franchising in many ways is America's best kept secret. People have these ideas of what it is, myself included, right? And then I realized these were all misconceptions. And now I love the fact that franchising is about being in business for yourself, but not by yourself. It's about leveraging proven systems. It's about being part of a community. The crazy thing is, what I love about it, it's so counterintuitive, because I remember when I learned that in franchising, most franchisees had no prior experience or a particular love for the business that they ended up in. And I'm like, that sounds completely opposite to what I heard in school. It's like, find your passion and then you'll never have to work a day in your life. And now I hear that here are people building empires with something that maybe they weren't even that passionate about. The story we refer to in our book is the porta potty story, saying like, who in their right mind would want to be in a crappy business like that, right? Excuse the pun. But if you stop for a second and say, wait a minute, right? If that porta potty business has the potential to generate more income than you've ever, imagined, is that a little bit exciting? Maybe, yeah. If you're able to manage your life and be in charge of your own calendar, have the lifestyle of your dreams, and that business affords you that, is that intriguing? Well, yeah. If maybe you're able to build something that is saleable, or maybe you're able to create a legacy for your family, or create a tremendous amount of wealth using a crappy concept like that, is that intriguing? And suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, if the porta potty business can do that for me, I love it, right? And it's so fun to see people's perspective change. I mean, for me, it's like, my mindset and my perspective has changed so much. And I just get giddy when I'm able to help somebody who feels stuck in a rut start seeing possibilities that are admittedly maybe a little bit out of their comfort zone, or maybe a lot, but they can start seeing a pathway forward to live the life that they knew they were meant to live. That to me is so satisfying.
That is incredible. Really beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm a little bit curious. I know I'm slightly changing the direction, but I'm a little bit curious. I feel like your type of energy probably draws a lot of people. And you just seem like to me, the type of person that is able to create community. Do you have any, tidbits for us about community or giving back to the community, some kind of social corporate responsibility?
It's interesting because I always, when I have a training class in front of me, I ask them at some point, I said, do you guys think I'm an extrovert or an introvert? And always people tell me, you are an extrovert. I mean, look at what you're doing. And in my heart, I'm actually an introvert. I know that I need to recharge my batteries in solitude. I like to think and I like to reflect, but it's almost like something overcomes me when I have a purpose and a mission, and I feel like I could be the better part of someone else's day. I feel an obligation to inspire them and give them hope, and that's my way of giving back. So yes, absolutely. Are there ways to give back in the community? Sometimes it's in smaller ways. Sometimes it's just, being able to engage with a stranger and putting a smile on their face. So thank you for recognizing that. So I feel like, if we all do our little part, who was it who said that? I have a quote somewhere. I think it was Mahatma Gandhi who said, be the change you seek in this world. And just, everybody doing a little bit like that, whether it's in your community, whether it's for a charity, whether it's in business. I feel like, if we all did that, what could the possibilities be?
Yeah,
that's the truth.
It really is true. You really are a fascinating human being. I wanted to address this introvert versus extrovert because obviously we're in the profiling business, and I agree with you 100% that the introvert, or at least a slight introvert, when they are on fire for something, when they're passionate, another beautiful, giving, help you side comes out. They're also particularly good at helping people make big decisions, like going into business for themselves. Introverts are viewed as authentic and real and trustworthy, and this absolute focus on the client that they have, where the crazy extrovert sometimes feels to the client a little bit puffed up, even though it's just extroversion. It sometimes feels puffed up. So I'm really glad you mentioned that, because some of the folks that are considering becoming a coach might want to keep that in mind. You being slightly introverted is actually a benefit in this business, because you're working with folks that are making big decisions, and you're going to have the credibility and the genuineness to take you there if you have a little introvertedness. So that was just a plug for you introverts out there that look at Tamara. Come on.
So even if it makes you feel sick, in your stomach, I had somebody, I remember asking a mentor of mine, I said, every time I'm supposed to speak to somebody or present something, I have these butterflies in my stomach. Will they ever go away? Yeah. And you guys may even know him, Brian Miller. He's with Patrice and Associates. And he said, T, the good news is it will. And I'm like, oh, fantastic. When? And he's like, the day you stop caring. I'm like, oh no. But it helps me every single time, because I'm like, I care enough so that it's not about me feeling comfortable or what's right for me in that moment. If I can make it about you and be the better part of your day, then I've done right by you. Forget about how I'm feeling, right? It's not about me. And you hit on something else. I think trust is so important. If people know that you don't have any other motivation or intent other than to help them figure out what's going to be right for them, they sense that. They try, they realize that even if you're helping them explore things that are completely out of their comfort zone, you only are exposing them to something that they have the power to make a decision of whether this is going to be right for them or not. But so often we say, people fear making a bad or a wrong decision. If we knew that we could always make the right decision, there wouldn't be a problem with making a decision, right? But, rather than making people feel that you better get this right, to help them see that once you educate yourself in a safe space, then at best, you're never going to feel 100% comfortable, but maybe you can make an informed choice. And if you know your work ethic, you will work on making this the right decision for you. And I feel like that has worked in my life. I never knew where it was going to take me. But once I recognized an opportunity that I had not recognized before, I knew that, if I'm laser focused and authentic about it, that, amazing things will happen, even bigger than I could have imagined for myself. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. Rebecca and I talk a lot about this because that's all about what this Oracle profile is. There's a whole segment on the values. And as long as people are making decisions that align with their values, then that keeps them aligned within themselves and their own integrity. And I think people are happier, right, when they're making the decisions that keep their own values aligned.
Oh, it's so important. And what I've learned over time too is that we value things differently, right? Yes. So not to presume that what's going to be important for me or what makes me happy is what's going to make you, Rebecca, or you, Tracy, happy, right? So being able to table my own values and being so curious about what's going to make you happy and help you discover what's going to be your next best move or the pathway to get you there, right? So really understanding your North Star and then exploring all the vehicles. So even though I'm a fan of franchising, I do believe that franchising is not for everybody. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody, just like a job is not for everybody. But if we can, find our North Star and then explore these various different vehicles that people have used to get to their wealth and their equity and their income and their lifestyle, then you'll be able to make the right choice for you and your family. I definitely believe that, but it's understanding your own values also.
Beautifully articulated, T. It really is about putting our own stuff and our own ego and our own values on the shelf, and the focus is on this client who wants to explore some options about their future, and the job is to walk them through that exploratory process. So I have a question about the changes in 20 years. What has changed in this space as a coach in the franchise space with the types of clients you're working with? What has changed, or is it still pretty much the same thing in terms of what drives someone to consider business ownership?
So I think technology has changed everything, right? The way we communicate, and thank goodness. Otherwise, we'd still be faxing each other things or, just using snail mail. So there are definitely efficiencies to be gained there. But what hasn't changed, I think it's a human condition. We have found, Terry estimates that about 75% of the adult population has this strong to very strong desire to want to be self-sufficient. Now, wanting to be self-sufficient is not the same as wanting to be self-employed or in business for yourself. As a matter of fact, we believe 75% of the adult population is probably scared to death about being in business for themselves. However, I think when we start exploring in a very matter-of-fact way, rather than putting our emotions, trusting just our emotions, putting them aside, and using a fact-based approach about, okay, what can be, what is possible, here are the pros and cons of all these different things. I think 70% of the adult population who's non-ready, willing, and able, they start seeing a pathway for themselves. Now, there is always that 5% who has a very clear vision for what they want their future to be. I was sharing a story with you about this young man that I'm going to be interviewing later today, who at 13 invested in Bitcoin. And then, by the time he was done with high school, invested in a business. I mean, it is amazing. So I would not consider him part of the non-ready, willing, and able. He certainly is part of the ready, willing, and able. He has this vision that maybe others cannot see, but he could see for himself. So yeah, I think the human condition hasn't changed, but the way we do things, leveraging technology, of course, that has changed everything. And maybe even in some ways made us a little bit more skeptical, right? So nowadays, when somebody calls you on the phone, you use caller ID, or you don't even answer it anymore. You say, let me see what voicemail they leave me, and maybe I'll call back, maybe I won't. Where maybe 20 years ago, people were delighted to have a conversation with you on the phone. So we just have to be creative to meet people where they're at, is what we like to say.
Mm-hmm.
I love Terry's whole concept of self-sufficiency.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to Jim Rohn a lot, and he talks a lot about self-reliance. But again, I think it's getting back to moving people away from their fears, out of their fears, and more towards their values, so that they can make good business decisions, right? And find franchises that align with what they're really passionate about or what their values are. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, we have an entire section in our book dedicated to what we call the F words, right? And we say, don't let these F words steal your dreams. And what are these F words? Some of them is just fear, right? Thinking that in order to do something, it's a fear-free state. Say that fast. But it's not. It takes courage, even if you can see a pathway for it. If you're doing something you've never done before, it's going to be uncomfortable. But if you can recognize that it's only going to be temporarily uncomfortable until you've mastered that new skill, would you have the confidence to move forward? Another F word that often comes to mind is, so fear of change, fear of the unknown, family and friends sometimes. Imagine if you're an executive in a well-paying job, and even though it's crushing your soul, when you tell your family members that I'm going to resign or quit my job and I'm going to start a business, people are like, are you crazy? Haven't you heard of small business failures? What do you know about being an entrepreneur? But if you can take people on the journey and help them understand how maybe your job is making you feel, and helping them understand that, obviously you don't want to jeopardize anything the family has. You're trying to create a better future for them, but being able to take people on the journey and just recognizing that there are going to be naysayers, and sometimes it's from the people who care about you the most, right? Because they don't want to see you fail, right? So that would be another F word that comes to mind. What else? Fear of success, believe it or not, sometimes holds people back, thinking like, well, if I am wildly successful, what is this going to mean? How am I going to fit into my community? People just have a hard time dealing with that. And it seems so counterintuitive, but sometimes that is another F word people need to contend with. So those are just a few that come to mind. Franchising, another F word. Funding, right? I never have enough. Like, where am I going to find the money? And people are amazed when you keep an open mind. Money finds a way, right? If the dream is strong enough, for sure, money finds a way.
So true. I love the list of F's. That's really easy to remember there. I want to highlight this friends and family and naysayer part, because you're right. This is a common issue when you decide to go this direction into business ownership, that folks that you had hoped would support that and believe in you and be a cheerleader may not be so. I have a personal story around that. At a place in Mexico many years ago, and at that time I was also working full time, and then I had what we now call side hustle, right? And I decided to go to my side hustle full time, and I had a friend, one of my two best friends, who was staying with me at my place in Mexico. And when I told him I was going full time, it created this massive argument, so much so, even though he had been staying at my home, enjoying the beach, he left in the middle of the night and says, I cannot sit back and watch you fail. And because he loved me, he cared about me, but he literally left a friendship, left my home in the middle of the night because he thought I was going to fail. And of course, that didn't happen at all. Things went very positively. So I do think it takes a certain amount of self-belief, or having a good coach like a T here that can walk you through it, even when friends and family may not always see your dream, may not always see where you're going. So by the way, that friend, we're still friends, but it was a tough year. Because he thought I was going to be a bag lady, I guess is what he thought I was going to be. I don't know.
Valid, right? Because you had a vision and he couldn't see
He
that.
couldn't
He
see.
doesn't want you to fail, but if you invite somebody like that on your journey so that they can at the very least see your vision and support your dream, and it's not always going to happen, right? There are
No.
unfortunately so many naysayers out there. That's why a small percentage of the population are in business for themselves or entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs, and many just, aren't, and that's okay too.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we close, I want to make sure people know how to get hold of you specifically, T, and also how they might learn more about getting into business for themselves, TES. Where might they learn more?
For sure. And I appreciate the opportunity. The best way probably would be to go on Amazon and get yourself a copy of Your Career Revolution. In the book, you'll see multiple QR codes where we have assessments and exercises that people could go through and do for themselves. But an easy way to reach me, tloring@franchisesource.com. I appreciate the opportunity so much.
You've been an absolute blast. I wish we had another 2 hours here because you've definitely pumped me up. I'm excited. So many people that want to fulfill these dreams and may not even know they have these dreams. So if they do have a dream of self-sufficiency, they just may not know how to get there. Tracy, what are you thinking, girl?
So I'm thinking that, along this idea of self-sufficiency, especially as a career coach and a trainer of other career coaches, I see all the time that people have transferable skills that they don't realize that they have, right? The big TS, the transferable skills. And just case in point, even with you, Tamara, I love how you decided hospitality wasn't for you, but it really was. And you had this incredible desire for customer service. Service cures the nervous, as my friend Jason always says. And you applied it just in a different way, where then you were igniting people to ignite others, right? So you were also still, believe it or not, relying on a lot of those customer service skills, wanting to see people have these happy futures and taking the steps that would bring them that way. So just last thought being transferable skills, seeing how you took your hospitality skills and probably infused a lot of them into this second area of your life in which you've been very happy for over 20 years. So thank you for being here. I love your energy. It's definitely infectious. You've got me like all inspired now.
Me too. Me too. I wanted to point out one other thing that really, in fact, I took notes. The only piece of paper I had, a napkin, was this whole idea, Tamara, that about open-mindedness. Not all of us are open-minded, right? But your open-mindedness allowed you to fall in love with America and to fall in love with franchising and to fall in love with coaching, none of which you ever thought you would. And here you are. And I want to highlight how that part of you, I think, is also what's allowing your clients to also be safe and being open-minded, right? Says, okay, well, she did it and she's making it safe to have me look at different things that I would never have considered before, because it really is a requirement when we go on this journey of potential business ownership that we be open-minded, because honestly, it's a very small fraction of people who know exactly what kind of business they're going to buy. Most will discover it through this process, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's what you learn after you think you know it all that really counts. And that's where the possibilities lie. So don't rob yourself of that opportunity.
It's on the edges. It's on the edges. So thank you for being here, Tamara. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Let's do this again, ladies.
Let's do it. Yes. And for those of you listening in today in the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made and relationships forged, we'll see you next week on another episode.